welcome. Glad to hear.
We have Mike Watson here today. He's with the Department of Labor. He's going to talk to us about the Chemical Right to Know Act.
Well, thank you, Mary Beth. It's good to be back with you. It's been a while since I've been here. Some of you look a little bit familiar, but it looks like there's a lot of new folks. How many of you have been here less than 3 years? Raise your hand. Okay, so we got quite a few. All right. And who's been here the longest? Who's been here 10 years? 10?
No, I'm just kidding.
10? 15?
13.
13? 25 years.
30.
40? 44 years? Anybody beat 44 years? Congratulations, that's remarkable. Well, I remember when, so we've met before then, because back when Charles was here, I used to come and put on some training classes for you guys. And for you newbies, I'm Mike Watson. I'm with the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing. We are different than we used to be. I still have one of the old shirts that says just Department of Labor, but it's Department of Labor and Licensing. We have 24 boards and commissions now under one umbrella, and I wear a lot of different hats there. I still supervise or I'm the program manager for Arkansas Occupational Safety and Health for the public sector. And today marks I start my 31st year doing this. So I've got 30 years behind me, and I wear a lot of different hats. I was really glad to get away from the office today, and because the governor, has called that special session, and there's always a lot of tension around that, and it's always nice to get away from some of that tension. So, but anyway, it's good to be here with you. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. For you new people, I want to tell you the difference between AOSH and OSHA. Everybody's heard of OSHA, right? And nobody likes OSHA. We're not OSHA, so you can like us, okay? So, but we're not OSHA, so I'm going to tell you the difference of that. And then we're going to discuss real quickly, briefly, and it'll be a refresher for those of you who have been here before, the Public Employees Chemical Right to Know law. It is Act 556 of 1991. It is a state law that any employee that works with chemicals of any kind, more than normal household usage, has to be trained about this law. And we're going to be discussing things about, safety data sheets. Some of you may have known them as material safety data sheets. And we're going to talk about the new global harmonized system of labeling. So those are going to be two things that we're going to discuss in that. But this is come in. Did everybody get signed in? We want to be sure everybody gets their name on the sheet, gets credit for this. There will be a test later, so,
How you spell T? My name?
All right. Where are you going? I've been doing this for 30 years, and as the lead fatality investigator for the state of Arkansas for all that time, I can tell you right now that it's not a good thing, because some people don't get to go home today. Usually, on the average, there's about 2 people per week are killed in the workplace in Arkansas. 2 a week. Okay? You don't hear about it on the news. You don't read it in the paper. But it happens. And we keep statistics on that. We actually have a federal grant that we have a staff that do nothing but keep statistics on accidents, fatalities, and complaints. And but I wanted to tell you that, that's sobering, but because somebody expects you to come home tonight, right? Somebody expects all of us. Somebody expects me to come home. Somebody expects you to come home. And did you know that if you have a spouse and a dog, did you know that your dog loves you more than your spouse?
That's easy.
It's true, and I can prove it. You just go home tonight and you put your spouse and your dog in the trunk of your car for 1 hour. And when you open it up, you just see who's glad to see you.
He got a point.
Now, don't really do that, but somebody expects you to come home tonight. And so that's why we have these safety classes. And we don't have them just to get you out of the rain or just to get you out of the heat. But however, when we do these in the summer, if we do them at 2 o'clock, that'll be good because that's, you know, the heat of the day. So it'll be good to come in here. And what a beautiful new facility you have here. I wanted to tell you, I haven't been here since the remodel. And this is really, really nice. Y'all are fortunate that you've got this beautiful place to come to and work and be comfortable in. Believe me, I've been in some places that work so comfy. So anyway, well, let's get started. I want to tell you about the difference between AOSH and OSHA. OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration for the federal government. They are the U.S. Department of Labor. United States Department of Labor. They are not the Arkansas Department of Labor. The Arkansas Department of Labor is AOSH, and we are Arkansas Occupational Safety and Health. Now the confusion comes from the fact that we use the same set of codes and standards that the federal people use, okay? The difference is how we operate. We use the same set of codes and standards, like 1910 for general industry, 1926 for construction, any National Electric Code, NFPA, all those codes. We use the same ones. It's his girlfriend. Tell her you're with another woman and you'll call her back later, okay? Okay, so the same set of codes and standards apply to all of us. So that's where some of the confusion comes from. But we are not OSHA. If we were to come here and do an inspection and find something that wasn't matching with the code, we give a report. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Now, if federal OSHA goes to Firestone and they go in and they do an inspection, they find something that doesn't match the code, they write them up, give them a hefty fine, and it's not so much, thank you very much, have a good day, okay? So we do it a little bit different. If we go to a place and we inspect it, they don't have the right poster, OSHA, federal OSHA, it's a $10,000 fine not to have the right poster. If we go into a school, which is the public sector, cities, counties, colleges, universities, public schools, other state agencies, that's the public sector. We don't go to Tyson's Chicken. Federal OSHA is not going to come here. You're in the public sector. Federal OSHA is not going to go to a public school. That's public sector. They're not going to go to the county or a city or a college. Okay? We will, but they won't. We split that jurisdiction back in 1993 when we were duplicating a lot of effort. So anyway, let's talk about a little bit more about this. AOSH versus OSHA. The public sector versus the private sector. Walmart's in the private sector. Public schools, cities like North Little Rock City, you know, we're all in the public sector. Okay? We wear lots of hats, and we do wear a compliance hat. In the event of an accident, God forbid a fatality, or somebody files a complaint, then we become compliance. And again, we do it a little bit different. We're not going to write a fine up front. We're going to investigate it, make sure everything's okay. If it's legit, the employer gets a report, and hi, come in. You doing all right? You're making it, are you? Well, I understand that. Me too. Good to have you. You need to be sure and sign in. You know, I always wait. Usually, it start a little bit late, and then I can say, well, we started a little bit late, so we'll finish early to make up for it. So we're done. We're getting close. All we lack's finishing up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But with compliance, we wear the hat, you know, that says you've got to fix this, in the event of an accident, fatality, or complaint. And we don't like to investigate accidents and fatalities. 99% of our work is consultation, which means we go in, we get people call us all the time. We come in, we inspect a facility, we look at a shop, we look at equipment, we look at all kinds of things. We base everything off the codes and standards. You know, we don't make up any rules. We look at all the codes and standards. We have all of those that you deal with. Things that you would deal with are walking working surfaces. Anybody do any welding in here? There's a welding standard. There's you work on equipment of any kind. So if you handle fuel, you've got to do hazard communication, which is OSHA speak for chemical right to know, which is what we're going to do. And you deal with tools. You have tools that you use. You know, there's a code and a standard for everything. There's a code and a standard for an ANSI standard for, you know, that cup you're drinking out of and a straw. There's a code and standard for everything. Walking working surfaces, slips, trips, and falls, ladders, you name it, there's a code for it. And you can go to OSHA.gov and look up the codes. It's all on the internet. Now the book I have is about this thick, you know, and I like the book because I can find a page and I can take it out and I can scan it and email it to somebody that says, here's a thing in the code, you know. But on the internet, you can look them all up at OSHA.gov. What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for hazards in the workplace where people can get hurt. And believe me, people get hurt in the workplace, and people do some silly things. Electrical hazards are one of the things that we see a lot of. Anybody ever see that before? And ladders. The average height of a fatal fall in Arkansas last year was 6 feet and 1 inch. If you got your feet at 6 feet off the ground and you fell, you have a 65% chance of dying. If you got your feet 3 feet off the ground, the height of this table, and you fall, you have a 33% chance of dying. 3 out of every 10 people that fell from this height died. Slips, trips, and falls is the #1 way you're liable to be injured or killed in the workplace. You and me, us, together, slipping, tripping, and falling. Keep in mind and be careful where you put your feet. We look at equipment. There's a code and standards for having equipment correctly configured. It's got to have the tool rest, the guards. It's got to have, you know, be adjusted properly. Grinders, fire extinguishers, table saws, you name it. Any kind of equipment that you use, ladders. You can't take an extension ladder, you know, and take it apart and use 2 pieces. That's a violation of the code. We had a fatality because of that. They took the ladder apart, they used one part of it, it slid, boop, he hit his head and died. Personal protective equipment. I love your chartreuse shirts. I can see you. Every time we investigate a fatality involving a motor vehicle, a piece of equipment that struck someone, ran over someone, or they got hit on the side of the road, the driver says, what? I didn't see them. That's what the driver says. I didn't see them. But if you have on protective gear, a class 2 vest with reflective stripes or your chartreuse shirts, when you get out, it's a state law, when you get out in the thoroughfare, private or public, when you get out of your vehicle with the intent to do work, you have to have on a safety vest or high visibility apparel, which is, your shirts qualify, okay? You've got to have that on. That is a state law, and it's also an OSHA code. And we have it in 3 different, it's so important that there are 3 locations that you can find those words, what I just said. okay? So, safety desks are important. Material safety data sheets. You know, they used to be called material safety data sheets, and now they're called just safety data sheets, okay? 3 times in my 30-year career, I've investigated that. 3 different times. He didn't want that leg. Not really. Chemical storage. This guy, he's standing on a chair. You see that chair? Okay. What's the #1 way you're liable to be injured or killed in the workplace? Slipping, tripping, or falling.
So strong.
And you think he's a little off balance with the big bucket up there like that?
Nah.
Yeah. Maybe just a little.
Depends on what you got in the pocket.
Well, what was it like before there were any codes and standards?
That looks fun.
You know, in 1970 is when I graduated high school. That was the year that they started talking about OSHA. And it didn't come about actually until 1975. And that's when they really came out with, you know, the OSHA codes. It took them 5 years to write up safety rules for all the workers in America.
Couldn't ride on the wrecking ball no more. Right?
I've
seen that.
You've seen that, yeah. Hey, listen, I live in Grant County. Anybody down here from around Sheridan area? I've got a picture on my phone
There.
that I saw one of my neighbors, okay?
Oh, no.
Going down the street in the bucket of a front end loader. And what did he have in the bucket? Christmas lights.
All right.
And they were lifting him up. He was in the bucket of this front end loader.
Awesome.
But they were going from pole to pole, you know. Makes me.
Yeah, it's the fastest way it's
It
down.
can give you heartburn. Let's back up, okay. You see how high up they are?
Uh-huh.
What about fall protection? Now, how far? When you get to a certain height nowadays, you've got to have on a full body harness and be tied off. And if you're in a bucket truck, you have to have a full body harness on. Absolutely, yes you do. I had a guy in Hot Springs argue with me one day. Oh, I'm in a bucket truck. Buckets around me. I don't have to have. Excuse me, sir. You need to bring that to the ground.
Now.
And you know, we do have a badge. We're the only true on the books agency staff, my group, that have right of entry without a warrant for our purposes.
Right.
Okay? So we do have a big stick. We just try not to use it. We want to get things done with sugar rather than sour grapes. We want to make sure everybody goes home safe and healthy to their family. I can't make people happy, but I want them to go home safe and healthy. You know, we always say safe, healthy, and happy. Can't do happy, but I can do safe and healthy, okay? All right. And of course, those rules that are in place now are to protect us from things like this. Now this guy over here, because I love this. Think of the caption on that one.
Whoops. I
Whoops!
got that.
Watch out! I dropped my hammer.
Headache.
Okay.
There you go. There you
I'm going to jump across. Okay, watch me.
go. Yeah.
Hold my
I
beer.
can make that.
Lunchtime.
Yep. Time for
Now y'all have a break room, right? Let's. We don't want to see that. I can't even imagine it. I can't. I have a hard time getting in a real tall deer stand, okay? I just can't even go there. All right. So we're almost through with this.
That dude was on the outside.
But, of course, this also made me think about 9/11. I have a cousin that's a lawyer in Oklahoma City. His office across the street up in a high-rise from the federal building there in Oklahoma City that Timothy McVeigh blew up.
Yeah. Fertilizer, they didn't need that much.
Anyway, those guys, I hope they paid him well. Do you think this guy had any sunburn on his face? You know, nowadays we wear face shields, right? When we weld, when we do things like that. Okay. We do what we do because of the rules and because it's the best thing we can do to keep us safe and healthy and make sure that we go home to those that expect us to come home. All right, I'm going to have to change programs real quick. I may have to have some computer whiz come help me. End slideshow, let's try that.
He wrote in
Okay. All right, and this is really, you know, I gave you that introduction to kind of get us back thinking about occupational safety and health. And this particular program, hazard communication, it kind of sounds like the Teskey brothers from Australia.
I started down to go to Mute Barn, but I didn't.
Oh. I just got back from the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee, where I did go see the Teskey brothers, and they are from Australia. Anybody know their music? It's kind of bluegrass, folk music, blues, Chicago mix, but it's really cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like crocodiles and koalas and kangaroos, so anyway. Okay, hazard communication. That's what OSHA Speak says. They call it that. We call it Public Employees Chemical Right to Know, which is the name of the law, Act 566, 1991. Now, I'm going to skip through a lot of this because it's old stuff now. But there have been, the foundation for this training is that there's a new system of labeling for chemical right to know. And as we all know, somewhere in your facility, for any of the chemicals that you work with, whether it's diesel or gas or oil or antifreeze or whatever it is, it could even, they may even have one for whiteout if they use it in the office, or bleach or whatever. Pardon me. It's got a safety data sheet to it, and there's a place where those safety data sheets are held and kept. And you have to have access to them. And before you use that chemical, the law says you have to be trained about how to use that chemical and be familiar with the safety data sheet. Because the safety data sheet is going to tell you information that keeps you safe when you're using that chemical. Anybody in here use the vehicle washer out there? Does it have soap in it? Got some soap? You may know what kind of soap it is. Anybody know where they can find that information? Can you get that soap on you? Does it say you're supposed to wear a respirator when you use that soap? I was envious of that vehicle washing station. I always wanted to run my truck in there, and you know. Anyway, that's why I remember that. So, the new labels about these chemicals have some pictograms on them, and we're going to go through those. But I want to just kind of back up and refresh your memory on chemical right to know. Number one, you have to be trained about the hazards with which you work. You have to be trained about any chemicals you work with. You have to have the safety data sheets available to you for any of those chemicals that you have in the workplace that you use more than normal household usage. And that can even include copy toner in an office setting, okay? Because they're using chemicals that they don't normally use at home. And we don't want anybody to get sick from methyl bad stuff. That's just what it is all about. So, safety data sheets were changed back in 2015, and manufacturers, importers, distributors, they all got the word then, and they had to change things. In-plant labels didn't really apply to this new system, but you have to be able to read, understand, and interpret safety data sheets. That is the key. So your employer is responsible for making sure that you can do this, all right? If they have to be in a different language, they have to be in a different language. So, all new employees must be trained. That's why I asked about some of your new ones. The new label elements and the safety data sheet formats. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that format of that safety data sheet. You know, it used to be 8 sections of information on the old material safety data sheets. Today, there are 16 sections of information about every chemical. 16 sections, okay? The most important one, though, is section 8, and it's about the personal protective equipment that you have to wear or don when you use that chemical, if any. Some chemicals you don't have to use any. Some chemicals will say eye protection required, apron required, gloves required, a respirator required, and that opens up a whole can of worms if it's a chemical that requires a respirator, okay? All right, so let's get into this. If you go to Sam's Club, you're going to see on the wall up there, MSDS/SDS. And by law, people that sell chemicals have to provide safety data sheets for the products they sell. At Sam's, they'll tell you, go online and look it up. And you can. And you can print it off. Print off the safety data sheet. And pretty much nowadays, for about any chemical that you use, even Fabuloso, if you use it at home, you can go online and print off a safety data sheet for that particular chemical, for your own household usage, or your own information. If you're using it at work, it's a requirement. There are 16 sections of information. They'll always be in the same order. They'll always contain the same type of information in each section. The wording and picture warnings have been standardized. And this is probably the most important part of that this Chemical Right to Know program, are the new pictograms. How many of you remember the pictograms? So we did this training in the past, and some of you can remember those. There is a hazard classification, and it's all about hazards. That's why we do safety stuff. You know, we have to identify the hazard before you can protect yourself from it. So that it's scientific determination of the hazards and the severity of those hazards. Anybody here allergic to poison ivy? That'll get you, won't it? And every time you get exposed again to it, it seems like it's worse, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. You develop a sensitivity to it. I'm one of those people. So, you know, if I see leaves of 3, it didn't let it be. It's like, back away, bud. And, you know, I'm going and getting I use glyphosate, 41%, straight. That's what goes, any poison ivy at my house, that's what goes on it. Because I don't want any poison ivy around my place, because if I even just get near it, it seems like it gets me. What basic hazard makes this hazardous chemical, and how dangerous is it? That information is found in the 16 sections put together of the new safety data sheets. Okay? We'll be talking about flammable gas and combustible dust and rest gases, suspected carcinogens. There are 10 basic health hazards that they list on these safety data sheets and 16 physical hazards, different ones. So that's how these new formats of the safety data sheets are, or that's how the new hazards are determined in the new format. Okay? I'll get it right in a minute. So the hazard statement that's on each one of those safety data sheets also tells us what the hazards of the chemical are and how they can hurt you. Okay? So like it causes skin and eye irritation. And I have this stuff at home because it causes your hair to fall out. Okay? So I'm real careful with that one. I haven't been careful enough, apparently. But can cause liver damage, and heating may cause a fire explosion, or you see what I'm saying? It's going to have a hazard statement that tells you that this will cause, your fingernails to fall off or whatever. That's the kind of hazard statement you're going to find on the new safety data sheets. In section 1 of those safety data sheets, you're going to have the product identifier. It's going to tell you what it is. We're going to go through these kind of quick. Section 2 is more identification. It'll have the signal word. It'll have the hazard class, hazard statement, precautionary statements. The ones like cause your hair to fall out, stuff like that. And it'll have the pictograms, and that's really the meat of things. We as a people are trained to look at something and it tells us a message. When you look at a yield sign, what does it tell you? Watch out, slow down, look around. That's what a yield sign tells you, right? It's not a suggestion. I know the ones with the numbers on them, like 55 and stuff, those are just suggestions. No, I'm teasing. The speed limit signs are not just a suggestion. And just to let you know, I've heard this, and I know stuff, okay? I've heard that here in Arkansas, the budget is running short at state police. Just to let you know. They're going with, that's not just a suggestion, okay? And did you know that it's against the law to exceed the speed limit to pass? Oh, they're pushing this one really big. If you pass another vehicle and you exceed the posted speed limit, it's $175. It is against the law to exceed the speed limit to pass. Think about it. Okay, I'll get off of that. Anyway, I just want to tell you, if you're going through Grant County, be careful on the bypass. Okay, section 2, more of the stuff there, about what it is. And the classifications have been changed. Some of you know about the NFPA system. You'll see a truck and semi going down the highway, and it'll have this little diamond on the back, and it'll have a 0 and a 4, and a big red letter 4. If it's got a big red letter 4, back off. Because if it blows, it's going to clean out the whole, it's going to leave a crater. And we actually had one make a crater down around Camden about 3 or 4 years ago. Do y'all remember that one? That blue? Okay.
Yeah.
So that system has been, they're kind of diminishing using that system. And now, I noticed the other day on the back of a big tanker going down the expressway, it had a pictogram on the back. Big pictogram on the back. And guess what it was? It was the fire burst. It was the one that said, this will burn, it will explode. Okay, it's explosive. So, anyway, this system, the NFPA system, is now changing. Okay, signal words. If it says the word warning on the label, or if it says the word danger, it's kind of like high and low, okay? Warning just means it's less severe to you. Danger means it could hurt you a little bit more, okay? So you'll see those two signal words. There's only 2 of them. And then hazard statements, there'll be things like extremely flammable liquid and vapor. Naphtha, sometimes you can buy canned fuel, you know, and you'll see stuff like that. Or it'll just simply say highly flammable, if it's a category 2. Category 3 is just flammable. Or category 4 is combustible. Is a 2 before flammable or combustible? Flammable. Think about it. Is it flammable or combustible? Is this flammable or combustible? This is combustible, it'll burn. It's not flammable and giving off a vapor. Usually flammable stuff gives off vapors. Gasoline's flammable, okay? This isn't giving off a vapor. This is combustible, it'll burn. The 2 before will burn too, but it's not giving off a vapor. Okay, so that's how you can kind of remember that. Flammable means that you can light the vapor trail. Anybody seen a gas station blow up because the vapor trail was lit? The guy over there lit his cigarette, the vapor trail off the gasoline, blew the gas station up.
Put on wood, fire, come right to you.
You ever pour gas on a fire? You ever see the funniest, stupidest home videos?
Yeah.
Where they pour the gas all over the big pile of brush and stuff, and then they walk up there and they throw a match down on it, and it goes, whoa! That's flammable, okay? Okay, precautionary statements. Let's do those. Okay. They've been standardized, general information, okay? And it gives you information about preventing exposure, emergency response. Anybody here an EMT? Anybody a first responder? No first responders in here? Oh boy, don't anybody have a heart attack? We're in trouble. No, I'm a first responder. Okay.
I got a license.
How to store stuff, how to store this chemical, and then how to get rid of it safely so it doesn't hopefully hurt the environment, okay? All right. Precautionary statements will be something like keep the container tightly closed, only use it in a well-ventilated area. You know, that's on a can of spray paint. Read the can of spray paint. It'll tell you don't spray in the house. Don't spray paint in the house. Okay? I don't care how hot it is or how cold it is. Don't spray paint in the house. All right. Or don't breathe the dust or the fume of the vapors. Those are kind of precautionary things. Wash your hands really good. And don't eat, drink, or smoke after using this product. I always love to tell my story right here about my good friend. He was a bus mechanic at a school. And when I used to travel the southern part of the state years and years ago, I would always stop there and with a brown bag and take my lunch with me, stop there and have lunch with him at the school, in the bus shop. And one day I pulled up and honked the horn and got out and had my little bag, and I went up there and sat out at the table. He rolled out from under a bus on one of those creepers. And he said, I'll be there in a second. And so I'm sitting over at the table getting my lunch ready. I go over to the sink, I wash my hands. Now I've been driving, but I wash my hands before I eat. And I use some of that orange stuff, you know. Well, pretty soon he gets out from under the bus and he comes over there, he goes to the refrigerator where he was storing his welding rods, where his lunch was, which is a no-no. And then he gets his lunch and he comes over there and sits down. And we're talking and he gets out a sandwich and we're eating and visiting and talking, and I'm not paying attention to him too much other than what he's saying. And the phone rings. He lays the sandwich down. He gets up and there's these little greasy black fingerprints on the sandwich. It's lithium grease. I prefer mustard. I want mustard on my bologna. I don't want lithium grease. But he was ingesting that. I said, hey, you need to wash your hands before you come back over. Okay. Be careful about that kind of stuff. Think about where you put your hands. You know, the average person puts their hands to their face right here. What? You do it over 100 times a day. See, I was pointing at the ones that are doing it right now. But see, we do that. We bring stuff here, And so we contaminate ourselves. And during the pandemic, that was kind of important. So, and we're having another one, as they say. Use only outdoors or in a well-ventilated area. That's another precautionary statement. All right. And then keep away from stores. Okay, and here's the meat of the program, and when we get through with these, we'll be finished. And then I'll only have a couple little stories to tell you. Are we running out of time?
I don't know.
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes, oh, good. All right, I'm taking bids on, we're finishing early. I'm wanting to buy one of those new Polaris Rangers. I'm taking bids right now, I'm telling you. All right, pictograms. These are the new symbols that you're gonna find on chemicals, and that you should be finding them everywhere, on everything you buy that has a chemical in it. And I always like to tell too about toothpaste. You know, we all brush our teeth once in a while, and you ever read the label on the toothpaste? What is the chemical name for antifreeze? Ethylene glycol. Thank you.
There's a whole lot.
You got a chemist in here. What's the number one ingredient in most Colgate toothpaste? Propylene glycol. It's the little sister to antifreeze. Why do you think they say on the box, do not swallow more than you brush your teeth with? Because that stuff will make you sick. You got to be careful with that stuff, okay? That's why when they market to little kids, they put dinosaurs and SpongeBob square britches on there and all that stuff on toothpaste. For little kids, they make that toothpaste formula different because little kids, they just eat it. Okay? So you got to kind of look at what you're putting in. Read the label on stuff. You'll be amazed at, and if anybody's having arthritis type symptoms after a meal, it's probably because of a chemical that a lot of restaurants use, and that even Cavender's seasoning has in it. There you go. Monosodium glutamate. It's been known to actually aggravate asthma and arthritis symptoms. I have a hobby on the side. I'm a biochemist by education, and I'm currently working on a new formula for an all-natural anti-inflammatory. I own a patent on an all-natural antiviral already. I've been on it for 52 years and never had the flu. But I will tell you, monosodium glutamate is one of the #1 causes of cell dysfunction that causes arthritis and inflammation of the joints. So just to let you know. All right, pictograms. These are symbols that communicate. How many of you have seen the movie Cool Hand Luke?
Yeah.
So you know, how many have not seen that movie? Cool Hand Luke. Okay, so this, if you haven't seen the movie, you're not gonna know what this means. When the guy says, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And the ones that have seen the movie know what that means. You need to see the movie. Symbols that communicate. That's what these are. Here we go. Ready? This is on the test. Okay. That's what you'll see on the back of some of these big tankers going down the highway now. So what does this mean? Boom. It's flammable. Okay, it's going to give off a vapor that will ignite and blow up. Or it could pyrophorics, like firecrackers, bottle rockets. Or it's self-heating. Linseed oil is self-heating. Put it on a clear cotton or a cotton rag, throw it in a tin can, and let it sit there and catch on fire. Never store linseed oil type rags in cardboard because the box will burn. Okay? Self-reactives, that's what that is. Organic peroxides, those things will burn. They're flammable, they give off vapor, ignite. So if you see that, you know it's gonna burn. Okay, I'm gonna skip through what I just said, because I just said what's written. Okay? And that'll shorten this appropriate. All right. Now, if you see this, it's a health hazard. Starburst in the chest. It could be cancer causing. It can change, it's a mutagenic. It can change your genetics, your genetic code. Reproductive toxicity, respiratory sensitizer, target organ toxicity, like the liver, and aspiration toxicity. The smoke off of a fire where you're burning poison ivy or sticks that have poison ivy on them is an is a respiratory sensitizer. That smoke can give you the effects of the poison ivy in your esophagus, in your lungs, in your throat, epithelial type cells, and cause you tremendous aggravation. Okay, toxicity. All right, here we go. Let me get through those. We got questions? You know what aspiration means, right? Everybody knows what aspiration means? Okay. Does anybody, don't be bashful. If you don't know what that means, it means you're breathing in and swallowing at the same time, and what you were trying to swallow went into your lungs. You aspirated it. And if you ever do that with root beer, oh man, that's tough. And I did that one time, okay, as a kid. You know, I was drinking some root beer, and I took a deep breath, and it went, and root beer went down in my lungs. And it'll come up real quick too if you'll cough and sputter it out real fast, I'm telling you. I don't recommend it. I still remember that, I was only about 9. Exclamation mark, you see this? What does this mean? It'll irritate your skin and your eyes. And it's acute. Acute means right now. It means get it on you, burn. Get it on you, hurt. Get it on you, burn, burn, burn. Right now. That's what acute means. It doesn't mean a week later, 10 days later, a lifetime later. It can also have narcotics effects and make you loopy. Okay? So if you breathe the vapor of something, it can get you. If you have a chemical and it shows one of these on it, it's probably got harmful vapors. Okay? And it hurts that respiratory tract. Okay. If it's got a gas cylinder on it, that's exactly what it means. It's a gas cylinder. Everybody use propane to cook with on the barbecue grill? Once in a while? I do. I still do. I don't have a pellet stove yet. My son has one. I still use propane, and I'm old school. I use charcoal and hickory. I got a big old hickory tree laying on the ground right now. You're shaking your head. You use pellets? You like that? You know, he just loves it. My son, he just loves that thing. I had him cook a brisket for the holiday. I have to admit, it was really good and tender. He cooked it about 12 hours. God, I mean, it just fell apart. I think I got something left. I'm getting hungry. Hurry up. Okay. Gas cylinder means it's something under pressure. If it looks like that, that means it's corrosive. It can really get you. If it can fry metal, it can fry your hand. Okay? So it's a chemical that you get it on you. It's usually an acid. You get it on you, it's going to hurt you. Okay? You don't want to do that. And if it's an exploding ball like that, an exploding bomb, well, duh, what does that mean? It means it will explode. It can be self-reactive. or it could even be water reactive. You know, those 3 firemen that were killed 30 plus years ago over in Helena, when they shot the water into the burning building, it hit the chemical, it produced hydrogen gas, they hadn't turned the power off, it filled the building like this, full of hydrogen gas, and it blew up and blew the wall down on top of the firemen. It was water reactive chemical. So it will, those chemicals that they're using over there now, in those same containers at that same plant that's been rebuilt, they have this pictogram on the side of those, the package of those chemicals. The flame over a circle is an oxidizer. Now there's a lot of oxidation reduction reactions in chemistry. The most common oxidation reduction reaction in the world is simply called rust. When you add water to steel or metal or iron, you get, because of the oxygen in it, H2O, you get rust, right? That's an oxidation reaction. So that, you've got this symbol, it can make it that chemical applied to something can make it degrade. It can make it rust, it can make it dissolve, it can distort its shape, it can do all kinds of things to it. That's what that symbol means. It's an oxidizer. And then if it has the motorcycle skin, no, not it has the skull and crossbones on it, it means it can kill you. Fatal. It's deadly. It's acute toxicity. Poison real quick, like rat poison. And if you go to Walmart and you see the rat poison down on the bottom shelf, you tell that manager of that store to put it up on the top shelf where the little kids can't reach it. You know, it's a colorful box. And they might think it's something like, you know, M&Ms or candy. And it shouldn't be, ever be down on a low shelf where the kids can reach it. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. All right. Well, that's the last one, except for, wait, there is one more. One more, ready? And then we'll be through. How many minutes we got? 7. One more minute, 7 minutes? If you see this pictogram, it means it'll kill the fish and the trees and the wildlife. So be careful with it, okay? When you dispose of it, it'll give you, on the safety data sheet, it'll tell you how to dispose of that chemical so that it doesn't do all that bad stuff. Now, quiz. What's the most important section on the safety data sheet? I told you earlier. 8. Section 8. Why? It has the PPE on it, personal protective equipment. It tells you what you have to wear to use that chemical to protect you. Okay? And somebody actually does expect you to come home tonight, even if it's just your dog. I got a cat, by the way. And so, one last word of wisdom, and then I'll leave. A good friend of mine, J.J. Gasper, he's on American Family Radio in the mornings, and he always gives good words of wisdom. And this one's sort of chemically related. He said, never take a laxative and a sleeping pill at the same time. Wow. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a delight to be in here with you. And I hope I get to come back very soon, okay? Y'all be safe.
Thank you.